The 805 Focus is brought to you in part by Nonprofit Kinect. Nonprofit Kinect provides superior leadership tools and resources so nonprofit leaders and board members can make valuable decisions to move their organization forward to a sustainable and vibrant future. More information on services online at nonprofitconnect.org.
Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Chandler Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits, so get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Megan Birney, and Megan is the President and CEO with Unite to Light. Welcome, Megan.
Thanks for having me.
Gosh, you have a big story to tell, I know that. So tell us about Unite to Light and what you folks are up to these days.
Sure. So Unite to Light was founded back in 2011. There was actually a visiting professor from Ghana. He was at UC Santa Barbara and meeting with all of these researchers and professors, and they were telling about the amazing work they were doing. And he smiled politely, shook his head and said, "Yeah, but what are you doing for the world?" And they were taken aback because they thought they were doing a lot. And they were, but to his point, he had students that were at his university that couldn't study at night because they didn't have light. Oh. And so he challenged them. Could somebody make a highly efficient, highly durable, low-cost solar light? And Dr. John Bowers, who's the head of the Institute for Energy Efficiency at UCSB, took on that challenge. He worked with students for the UCSB Engineers Without Borders, and they came up with our first product, which we currently call the Luke Light. And the next year, they actually distributed to that professor in Ghana our very first lights. And since then, we've distributed over 165,000 lights to 78 countries all over the world.
So it just took them 1 year to produce the first light and send it. I bet that Ghana professor was just astounded.
Yes, and an amazing human. The difference was, or the real kind of key was making it low cost, because at the time there were solar lights out there, but they were pretty expensive. So you really had to kind of dial in the lighting technology, the solar technology, and the battery technology. The team just did an amazing job, and we've gone up from there.
So tell me again the numbers that you just said, how many you've distributed now.
Sure, so we've distributed over 165,000 lights to people in, I think we're about 78 countries now, all over the world.
78. Yeah. So how big is this light? I think you might have one with
you.
We
do, it's really small. So this is what we call, we have two products. This is kind of the original, what we call our Luke Light. It's recently gone through some revamps, but it's small. It weighs weighs about 6 ounces. The goal was, again, to make it really efficient and really easy to transport. This gooseneck is great because it's a task light, so it'll target on your book. It has an automatic off switch, so that was a very good lesson learned in the first year. Is how do you tell somebody to turn a device on and off if they've never seen an on-off switch before?
Oh gosh!
So they'd leave it. The battery would run out, the light would turn off on its own, and then they'd put it in the sun. Great, but if the if the power was still on, the battery would just keep running the light. So
sure.
It has to have an automatic off switch. Something we would never think about in our connected world. Yeah. And then also with, we kind of wanted to make sure that everybody had different options to use this. So it does hook into itself, and you can put that on your wall. You can hook it in your wall.
That's smart.
Our midwives actually showed us how this could be a hands-free device.
Oh, wow.
So that was another kind of thing that we never thought of, but they've definitely done that. Our midwives are amazing. And it's waterproof, which is another, and that's brand new. So it wasn't waterproof in the beginning. Just about 2 years ago, we came out with a new version, which is waterproof. And that's, again, really important. If you're somewhere in the tropics, it's sitting in the rain, you drop it in a pail of water that you're carrying your water home.
Right.
So so this is our Luke Light.
And say the name of it?
Luke Light.
Oh, Luke.
Mm-hmm. So that also is a story. One of our board members, her son is named Luke, and he actually passed away in a tragic climbing accident.
Oh.
But what that really did was bring an amazing community of folks together for this light, and they started raising funds to send lights in his honor. And that was
sweet.
Actually about 10 years ago. It's the 10-year
gosh.
anniversary this year of his passing, but his light still shines bright with us. And we just were so inspired by Luke and his family that we named our light after him.
That is great.
Yeah.
So the students at UCSB actually invented this.
Yes, this comes right from UC Santa Barbara, so made at home, and
They were already working on the technology, and then they just decided that this would be a good application, or?
So a lot of the technology does come out of UCSB. For example, so John Bowers, Dr. Bowers, is working on solar photonics, so that's part of what he does, some battery technology. The white LED was invented by Dr. Suji Nakamura, also out of UCSB. So a lot of the technology pieces were from UCSB, and then the students and the Institute for Energy Efficiency kind of put this together into a nice little package. So now it's a lot of off-the-shelf things, but at the time it was really cutting edge.
Wow. And so what is this other, I see you brought another product with you.
Yeah, so this is what we call our Chandler Charger, and I can give you the story behind that too. But essentially, once you have a solar light, you want the next thing up. And what does that mean for most people? Probably the most thing it means for most of us, which is cell phone. You want to charge your cell phone. So this will actually, it has two USB charging ports, so you can charge a cell phone and other small electronics, fetal heart rate monitors, blood pressure monitors. There's a lot of small electronic healthcare devices being developed all over the world, and so this is great. A lot of our midwives get this. A lot of folks who are victims of disasters want this. I'll be honest, I never leave home without it if I'm traveling, whether it's backpacking or international travel, because you never know when you need to charge your cell phone. But same idea here. It's really lightweight. It weighs less than a pound, very efficient, easy to pack. So those are the two devices, and it does have a light as well. I'm not going to turn it on because it's pretty bright, but just like your cell phone, it's got a torch light, as we call it. So. And then the Chandler Charger. Chandler is actually a partner of ours in Haiti, a young man who's really gone out and helped us deliver thousands and thousands of lights to school children all across Haiti. And he goes and gets them really excited about the Luke light, and has just been an amazing partner. During the earthquake this last summer, he was helped us get some of the first product into the country, into the hands of people who were the first responders in these communities. Wow. So he's just an amazing human as well, and so we've named our charger after him as well. So we've got a couple great people to honor.
It sounds like you work with some pretty inspiring people.
Absolutely, and we're a small team. All of our distribution is through other partners, and that's really important to us because we want to have an on-the-ground presence, and as a small organization based in Santa Barbara, we can't do that. So we work with organizations like Direct Relief, like Rotary, who have on-the-ground partners, right? So we never put a light in somebody's hands where we don't have somebody there through one of those distribution partners. And that's really allowed us to be very effective and keep our costs down significantly is having these fantastic partners, and they just inspire us every single day.
Wow, so you collaborate with a lot of different people,
partners,
organizations.
All of the above, and we collaborate with individuals. So especially before COVID, not as much during COVID, but hoping to get back into that. Individuals could take our lights with them when they go to projects, when they travel internationally. But then we also work with large organizations, as I mentioned, Direct Relief, also the United Nations. We've worked with their midwife programs. So really, any size of organization, from somebody taking 10 lights to somebody taking 10,000 lights, just all across the world.
Gosh. Okay, so it's solar. How is it being affected, or how is the technology or the use of it being affected by climate change, for example?
Climate change really makes this more and more important every single day. So one of the original intentions was to replace a kerosene lamp. So a lot of places in the world, if you don't have electricity, you have wood, you have candles, and you have kerosene. And kerosene is incredibly dangerous. It's polluting. It's really bad for the respiratory health, and it's just not a great technology, to be honest. So what we're trying to do is replace all of the kerosene lamps with solar lamps, and this is a big push throughout the entire globe. There's a wonderful solar market which is moving towards that as well, but there's people that are being left behind, people who really don't have enough funds for even a low-cost solar light. And so we've actually partnered with the University of California in 2020, and we did a pilot project in Tanzania with a group called Solar Sister. And I mean, talk about an amazing partner group, and I can talk a little bit more about them. But with the carbon offset project, essentially the university subsidized these lamps. And so we could offer them at a lower price to Solar Sister. And then Solar Sister is actually an entrepreneurial group. So they go into the communities and essentially work with women to train them to be entrepreneurs, to train them in finance and marketing. And then these women go out and sell products in their own community. So it's really not just about the carbon offset, it's also about women's empowerment, economic development, kind of the litany of wonderful things that we all like to support. And so that was in 2020, and now we're trying to really launch that program to be much, much bigger and have a much bigger impact. But that's been a really exciting development we've done in the last couple of years.
Wow. So, you know, part of the human condition is that we don't like change. So what do you do to sort of prepare people, maybe people who are using the kerosene lamps or whatever, to prepare them to embrace this technology and really make it a part of their life?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, people love these. You know,
really?
they absolutely
do. There's no convincing.
There's no convincing once somebody sees how easy it is, how inexpensive it is, right? Because even if they've paid for it, maybe they've paid, you know, $5 or $10, they're probably offsetting kerosene that they were paying $2 a week for. And these are people living on these are people living on less than $2 a day. So, you know, a solar light that they can actually save $2 a week in kerosene use, it's a no-brainer for them. And what we've actually seen is once people switch to solar, there's no going back. In the industry, we call it the solar ladder. So this would be the first rung on the solar ladder. Something like a phone charger would be the next rung, and then solar on your home, and you have a couple lights and a plug. And it's just, you know, when you get rid of those fumes from the kerosene, when you get rid of the cost, when you get rid of the danger from both the kerosene itself and the flame, you know, especially families living in huts who have maybe a thatched roof. Yeah. So it's pretty impressive. It's just really impressive. People do not want to get rid of these. There's not a lot of convincing. It's usually the opposite. We really trying to fill that need is the hardest thing for us. We've got more people who want these than we could. Than we can give them to. So it's always a struggle to find the funds so we can provide more lights to more people. Okay, so that's on that comment, my question is, so you've given out obviously hundreds of thousands of these, but do you have any statistics like, oh, the need is really this big and our goal is to give out this many more in the coming years? Yeah. So globally there's about 1 billion people living without electricity still. 1 billion. 1 billion. So that's 1 in 7 humans. If you look at, I mentioned there's an existing solar market and it's thriving and it's wonderful. But we actually saw a study last year come out that said about 240 million people are going to be left behind. So these are folks who can't afford even that low cost solar light. So these are the folks that would benefit from the carbon offset market, for example, a discounted light, or the students that we work with. A lot of the students don't have kerosene, they don't have anything. They're just, you know, when it's dark, and that's the end of their day. So those 240 are really what we're trying to target. We've consistently done about 20,000 lights a year. Honestly, we're really trying to ramp up. We've got a goal of 50,000 for this year. So we're trying to get there. It's been an interesting couple of years between COVID and shipping delays and all those fun things that we found in the last couple of years. But we think we can do it. Okay, so now Unite to Light is a 501c3 nonprofit. And you folks accept financial donations that are tax deductible to the donor. Absolutely. And so I'll bet you a person could go on your website and make a donation. They can. It's just unitetolight.org. And even more than that, you can pick one of what project you want to give to. So we have 4 different focus areas: education, global health, which is really focused on midwives, disaster response, and then homelessness. And so as people go through and make their donation, they can actually select which project they want to support. Wow, that's great. Yeah. So homelessness. So it seems like I remember that you also work in Santa Barbara. Absolutely. Perhaps with the homeless community. Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about people living without electricity, a lot of our minds go to that student in Malawi or South Africa, and that's understandable. That's what the media shows us, and there are a lot of people living without electricity in those places, but there's also a lot of people living without electricity right here at home. And so if you look at not just Santa Barbara, but across the US, people experiencing homelessness, houselessness, it's a significant problem. And we started working with some local folks here before COVID happened. And we're doing a very small project working with safe parking to get those folks solar chargers so they could charge their phones, so they could access services. And then COVID hit. And what had been a small problem became a significant problem, because it used to be that people without homes would use a cafe or the library to charge their cell phones, and all of a sudden those were all shut down. So in 2019, I think we had distributed about 150 solar chargers in Santa Barbara. In 2020, we did 3,000 all across the US, from New York and Tennessee to Chicago, LA, San Francisco.
Wow.
It was a significant problem because the services that people experiencing homelessness, from food, shelter, mental health, all were, were no longer able to access because they didn't have phones to know where these things were, if they could get appointments. So it became a really important part of what we do even today. So that's still a significant program that we run.
Wow. So who were some of your partners, for example, in the U.S.?
So in the U.S., some of our projects, all of our partners have been Backpacks for the Street, Santa Barbara Backpacks for the Street. I'm sorry, Santa Barbara Street Medicine.
Oh, Street Medicine. Okay.
Santa Barbara Street Medicine. In New York, there's a group called Backpacks for the Street. They've been another significant distribution partner. We work with the Harm Reduction Therapy Center in San Francisco. So a lot of folks who are dealing with mental health and doing outreach. So that's what Santa Barbara Street Medicine kind of showed us, because these folks are trying to access services and they can't charge their phone, so they can't, call for help. They can't make an appointment. But we've also seen it be really helpful with jobs. So if people who are trying to get jobs, they need to be able to be reached, whether it's temporary or a permanent position. So having a very simple, a very simple device that they can just plug their phone into has been extremely important to those folks.
Wow. How do you find all these partners? You work with a lot of them.
We do. Some of them are, longtime friends. We also, because of COVID and actually with the civil unrest in 2020, we started a new program we call our Gift of Light program. It's a partnership program, but essentially anyone can apply. So we have an application on our website, and organizations can come in and apply and talk about the need and how they'll use the lights. And and then we have some lights that we give away, and then we request that they do a partnership with us. So they try to fundraise in some way or promote some of our other programs together. So we're really trying to expand who we partner with and increase the diversity of our partners.
So this charger, it's not like the other ones that you get where you have to plug it in the wall before you're going to use. This it becomes charged from the sun.
From the sun. Yep.
Okay.
Great question. And it's interesting. You can charge it by the wall, which is great. So especially if you're in a hurry, going traveling or something, you can plug it in, make sure it's full. Wonderful. But it is designed to be entirely charged by the sun. And that's important, because if you look on Amazon, you'll see some of these, and most of them have, one panel, and you read the fine print and it says not intended to be charged by the sun. It's just going to give you a boost. It's not going to actually charge the entire battery, because there's not enough space, right? So again, this is a three panel system.
I get it now.
So these are the solar panels, and they charge the battery, and you need more essentially square footage to get that battery charged. So that's why we have 3 panels, is because this is intended to be charged entirely by the sun.
So how long does it take to charge something like this?
So a full charge takes about 4 days.
4 days?
Yes.
So stick it out in the sun for 4 days?
Yep, but that'll actually charge your cell phone 3 times.
Okay.
So if you need 75%, we usually say it's about 75% charge a day, which is pretty reasonable. When I go backpacking, I'll make sure it's fully charged before I go, and then just clip this to my backpack, and I don't have to worry about it. It'll charge my cell phone. I've done a 5-day backpacking trip. Yep.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So no problem.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So it's actually pretty efficient, and again, really important for us because we have so many partners that don't have access to that wall plug. But for those of us who do, it is kind of nice to just plug it in. 4 hours later, it's full, you're good to go. So we do have some flexibility with that.
Gosh, I bet you've got a story or two you could share with us.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite stories probably is, I guess 2 of them are interesting, around the education impacts. So again, this started with trying to get students to be able to have time to study and read at night. And so we started working in South Africa quite a few years ago with one of our board members, Suzanne Cross, and she had already been working with some schools there. And so we went into the schools and we created, and actually this was their idea, light libraries. So the idea is that you could actually lend out a light and then it comes back to the school. So just like a book.
Oh,
right?
That's cool.
So one light can be used year after year. And we tried this out with quite a few, essentially their secondary schools, their high schools. And they lent out the lights to the students who were studying for their exit exams. And we've seen a 30% increase in graduation rates. And
that is amazing.
And that's year after year. So we've got one light will be every year is lent out to the seniors.
Yeah.
The seniors get to use it so they can study at night, and then they're 30% more are graduating. And that's huge in somewhere like South Africa where you have to have a degree to get a job. It's pretty significant. So that's been a really fun one, and we've just seen that thrive. And so yeah, these lights cost us essentially $10.
Yeah.
And to think about the impact of just years and years of students being able to graduate thanks to just a small solar light, something that we would overlook.
That's incredible. Megan, thank you so much for all of this amazing work that you and your team are doing, and thanks for being with us today to share that.
Well, thank you so much for having us. I appreciate it.
And thanks for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.